Hi, my name is Kimberly Djehanian and I'm a London-based artist. As an artist, I've always been obsessed with drawing faces and portraiture. So in these series of lessons, I want to break down how I draw a portrait into 5 practical steps. In these lessons, I'm going to cover the materials you'll need, how to find a good reference, lightings and planes, starting the line work, shading, and finally completing the drawing. Don't worry if you don't understand some of these terms, I'm going to explain all of them in depth throughout each lesson. To start off with, I'm going to first cover the materials we will be using. So you'll need a mechanical pencil, a 6B pencil, a rubber, and a sketchbook or just some paper. Before we move on, I want to quickly explain what pencils I use for my portrait sketches and why. In general, I only use pencils that are softer than HB. This means I can easily erase my line work if I mess up, but I can also get really dark values, which helps me achieve depth and dimension in my sketches. However, when you're just starting your sketch, I would recommend working with a 2B pencil and gradually working your way down to a 6B. This will mean that you can build your shadows, and once you're confident with your line work, you can then deepen them with some softer pencils. Another advantage of working with softer lead means that you don't have to put as much pressure on your pencil. This is super helpful because when it comes to rubbing out any mistakes, you won't be left with any indents on your paper. Once I have my tools ready, the next most important thing is finding a good photo reference to work from. The first thing I ask myself when looking for a good reference is, does this image inspire me or am I drawn to it? I find that a lot of the time when I draw from a reference which I find inspiring, I feel much more driven and invested in creating my sketch. Of course, the reason of being inspired by a photo varies from person to person. So don't feel like there's any wrong or right reason for liking a reference. The next thing I look out for when choosing a reference is good lighting. A lot of the portraits we see on social media nowadays are very evenly lit, which create very flattering and beautiful photos. However, these are some of the hardest photos to draw. When looking for a well-lit photo, I suggest finding pictures where you can clearly see where the light source is coming from. One of the ways that you can check this is looking under the chin and under the nose. If you're struggling to figure out whether your photo is well lit or not, you can use a black and white filter as well as turning up the exposure so you're only left with no color, it's just the light and dark values of the pictures. So as an example, I've done this with 2 different photos, one that's well lit, that one on the left, and the one on the right which is poorly lit. With the one on the left, even after I've gotten rid of all the colors and the midtones, you still have a sense of form and dimension, and you can clearly tell that the light source is coming from the top left corner. However, if you look at the one on the right, the only thing you can really see are the features on her face. But the face itself is very flat, and it's really hard to tell where the actual light source is coming from. In the next lesson, I will be explaining how to group the light and dark areas of your reference into shapes. So make sure that your reference clearly reads when in black and white and still retains its form and dimension. Finally, make sure that the photo you are working from is a high definition photo and that you can clearly see all the features on the face. You don't want to be having to make up features that you can't see and guessing where they're placed. This will make the process so much harder for yourself. A lot of the time, I see students getting pictures from Instagram. Although Instagram is an amazing place to get creative ideas and inspiration, the images on there are usually very low definition. So to quickly summarize the things that you should be looking for when trying to find your references, firstly, a photo that inspires you, which will keep you motivated and driven throughout the process. Secondly, you want a photo that has good lighting, which will help you so much later on when you're shading in your sketch. And lastly, you want a high resolution photo, which will make the process easier and faster. Now that you know what to look for and what to avoid, it's time to find your references. I personally think that the best platform to get your references is from Pinterest. If you don't know what Pinterest is, it's basically a social media platform that not only has an endless number of photos, but is also specially curated based on the things that you search. To search for a photo, I usually just type in portrait references or portrait inspiration, and then I just look through the portraits and find one that I like. And then when I click on it, you can see immediately it curates a brand new page with images that are visually similar. So if I do this again, you'll see exactly how good this tool is and how quickly it curates these new pages which are visually similar to the one that I clicked before. Once you have chosen your favorite images, make sure you pin them or save them to your computer so you can use them for our later lessons as a reference. You guys can also check out my Pinterest account. I have a few boards there dedicated to portrait photography. So if you need some inspiration, feel free to check out my boards and maybe you can take some pins from there. If you're struggling to find references on Pinterest, another option is this website called We Heart It. And so you can see I'm just doing the same thing, typing in portrait reference, and straight away you can see that there are loads of photos that you can use as a reference for your drawings. Hopefully you can now check out one of these platforms and find some photo references to use. Make sure you save them onto your device somewhere so you can have them ready for our next lessons. Although this lesson was very short, I felt that was really important for me to cover how to find a good reference and the importance of having a good reference in one lesson. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and if you have any questions regarding this lesson or drawing portraits in general, feel free to send me a message to my Instagram, which is kimberlys.illustrations, and I would be more than happy to help. Thank you so much for joining this class, and I hope to see you in the next session.